matter. It's
all the same.
in some ways it's half a dozen one, six of another.
My
So
point, yes,
Is he saying Beaver and Woodland?
you get a group of people, if it's even 10,
just said Beaver and
on
Woodland?
Exchange and Williams, calling you Uber, you're waiting for lift. I mean, I don't see how it's possible. The other thing, I don't know if you included in your traffic studies, you have an investment bank at 60 Wall, which is Deutsche Bank, which has fleets of cars coming in right around 7 o'clock to pick up people there. That's a whole nother set of traffic.
plus those, yes, all of those. So I want to try to give everybody
Can I just clarify something? I know you need to get through it, but you said that you will be using William and Beaver?
Will not.
Will not be. And that's what you're concerned about.
My question is now 20 Exchange at Williams and Exchange, is that going to be the main entrance for people going in?
According to this agreement with 15 William, it looks as though it will be.
And it looks like it's going to be a drop-off point.
Beaver
Also,
Street,
the
mid-block.
only drop-off.
Yeah, right in back of our building.
hush, Beaver Street, mid-block. All right, so I'm going to call on you.
Okay.
Tell me your name.
Yeah, so my name is Courtney Adante, and I'm also a resident at 20 Exchange. I have been for 3 years. And the thing I would be most interested in understanding is just the fire life safety plan for the building. And an understanding of, has the FDNY looked at the plan? What is the plan? And how do we accommodate for in an evacuation scenario, the evacuation of all of those people up through the stairwells in the basement and all of the residents coming down at the same time? What are the designated egress points in that kind of a scenario? And again, has the FDNY reviewed and signed off
With
on
no
that?
elevators.
In the event where the elevators, have to
Can't
be
use
shut down.
elevators.
May I answer?
Yes, please.
Yes, you may.
So, the fire department has not yet been presented with a plan. But the egress from
They have not.
not yet been presented with a plan. But the egress from the upper part of the building and the egress from the lower part of the building were separate when it was a bank, and they're going to remain separate. So there is no mixing of those two under an emergency situation. We do have plenty of exits out onto the street that have been talked about that would be used in an emergency, but they're not tending to be used regularly.
Okay, just, and I'll cut this off here, but as a resident, that was my primary concern. I love McKittrick Hotel, I love Sleep No More, I've been several times. It's a really cool venue, and it's a really cool experience, except I have concerns just with the whole, again, fire life safety issue with our building, as long as that can be clearly articulated as safe. But when I'm fearful of the numbers that this will add to that little corner where we are residents, and I'm also, fearful of the situation or scenario when we have to get emergency vehicles into that area when we have heavy traffic. So, and again, if we can have that articulated and clarified, that would help, I think, the residents.
I think I want to say one thing, all right? This is a community that has lived through a great deal, all right? And many of the people have been here for 20, 30 years and lived through 9/11. So they're very concerned about the issues that have been raised and about the traffic and people getting to and from.
And if we have another bombing.
We could have from your lips to her ears. Anyway, but you have to understand that nobody, this is just feeling for most people, all right, a bad place, all right? We're not criticizing your venue or whatever. It is the area. You can't guarantee, as good as you may be, and you're a little faulty on some things, you can't guarantee what we know, the quality of life. Pat's here from the committee, that we know happens here. And that's the issue that you're hearing from most of the people. So I want to just go around and let some people, there were some people here.
Some over here
Do
too.
you want to say something? Because she was here.
I'll follow that. Susan, before you go off onto something else, why haven't you discussed your potential plans with the fire department?
Well, these are the plans for the concept that involves a liquor license. We're not sort of there yet. If there's no liquor license, as been indicated,
I would
there's a
think that
different
before you
configuration.
receive to do anything, you'd want to make sure that your patrons would be safe and that the residents who live in the neighborhood would be safe, and so I would think just in a purely planning stage,
Correct.
you would discuss it with the police, you would discuss it with the EMS, you would discuss it with the fire department, because we all know, I mean, obviously 20 years have passed since 9/11, we all know it was like they had no plans then. We know they have some plans now, but don't you need to know that if you're bringing 500 to 1,000 people per day into a community, don't you need to know whether your patrons will be safe in case of an emergency?
He's saying
on
we
the
need to know
weekends.
whether to talk about 500 people or 3,500 people with the fire
I
department.
don't care if it's 50
No,
people.
no, that's what
we
he's
just wanna
saying though.
know.
That's what he's saying though, it's based on the configuration.
We-
Means, are we gonna have 3,500 that we present the fire department with, or
That's-
500?
that's-
I'm just saying that's the answer. That's the answer.
Well, I'm gonna call on this lady in the
Can I let,
blue
can I
and
let the,
I'll
arch-
come to
can I let the
you. Yeah.
architect
That's what he said.
address that question?
May I
Stop!
add to that? We've analyzed the building relative to building code compliance and fire code compliance very deeply. And once we have a plan fixed by what this board will decide and others, then we will in fact engage the fire department as we have to, and engage the building department.
When you say you have to, what will you engage the fire department about?
We have to get approval for our fire alarm, we have to get approval for our fire protection
Because
plan.
that's interior. I'm
Exactly.
talking about exterior.
Exactly.
So are you going to talk to the
fire
fire,
department will address that when we go to them for review.
they'll address exterior. They will address
Access. They will
evacuation,
address
the access for their fire trucks to get to.
That's correct.
And what about the police?
That's why you don't want that in the traffic study, because we're not the professional expert opinion.
So let's be very clear.
That's why I'm
Okay,
asking.
I wanna,
While you're doing that,
wait,
Gotta get through these.
we've gotta get through, but I wanna say a couple of things, just quickly, hold on. The fire department is mostly concerned with getting people out. Once they're in the street, they're not as concerned. Let's be
That's
very
true.
clear.
Exactly.
I mean, let's be very clear, so let's leave that there. I want to call on a couple of people. Oh, no, not
You
Joel.
said Harvey.
I said the lady in blue, and then I will call on you, I promise. There are a lot of hands up. Go on.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Kelly Mondesire, and I have to be transparent. Up until a month ago, I sat on the board of directors for 15 Broad Street, just to be clear. I did not find out about this meeting until Mr. Kaufman brought it to my attention yesterday, and I saw it on the Tribeca Citizen newsletter. So I'm very disappointed, and my apologies that my board did not inform the residents of 15 Broad about this meeting, and that I had no clue that this was going on. That being said, it will not be redundant in speaking of the traffic and the safety, because we all know this is an issue as well as the noise. What I want to discuss, and I know and privy to this information, having been on the board of directors of 15 Broad, is the trash issue that we have in the neighborhood. Now, folks, seeing the future community planning of what they'd like to do with our area, with the fake cobblestone streets and getting rid of the sidewalks, yada, 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 one of the issues we have, yes, is safety of people crossing the street, especially on the corner of William and Exchange, but also the mountains of trash that we have on Exchange Place. Now, voila, so you add another venue, and please, I have nothing against your venue, I just think it needs to be someplace else. This is not the street. This is not the location you really want to thrive with your business. From a marketing point of view, wouldn't you want to be somewhere where you can have the capacity of 3,500 people all night long? This is a residential neighborhood. We cannot support the added trash alone in the neighborhood. That's where I'm going to
Just
leave
take
it
a look
right
at
now.
the
Exhibit A, the picture of the trash
Last
from last week in
20
front of
Exchange.
the 20 Exchange.
All right, so
There you go.
there we are, here we are. We are at 7:30.
Do you
All
wanna,
right.
do you wanna know what we're doing to address?
Oh, tell me what you're doing. I really want to know, Alex. I'm not being facetious.
No, well, it will also, we can't, we've tried to think about ways we can handle the residential garbage, but can't. What exists, we're willing to participate in any community-wide effort to solve that problem. But as far as our garbage or their garbage, it all gets stored inside. They're gonna purchase what's called the glass bartender disintegrator, so that all of the glass bottles get,
Yeah, I know.
dustified. All of the garbage will stay inside until 30 minutes before.
oh, that's good. Because that's something we've been working on.
30 minutes.
That's
That
right.
is
30
true.
minutes
There's not,
before
nobody's gonna
the
disagree.
the existing carter that's serving the neighborhood comes and picks up their stuff. So the glass disintegrators to make sure
What
garbage
floor
stays
is that
quiet.
on?
And then, I'm sorry,
What floor is that on?
what floor is what?
The disintegrator on it.
It's gonna be right
Basement.
in the basement.
Okay.
It's gotta be in the basement.
It's not gonna be, the intent is to not
Okay,
have garbage
I am going
outside,
to stop.
and it gets picked up every
Okay.
day.
I mean, that is good.
Yes, please. Stand up, will you do that for me, please?
Which building?
And tell us who you are. Okay,
Loud.
okay, your name and where you're from.
Guys, guys.
My name is Tanya, I'm from 20 Exchange, and since there is a parking issue on the streets, why don't the city make it so there's no parking? So then we will get rid of traffic on the street.
Placard cars?
Blackwood cars.
It won't matter.
Huge battle.
So I will answer that.
We have no
I will answer that. We have been working on this for how long? All of us, each and every one of us, have been on the board. And the placard cards, it's a complicated piece of business, but we try all the time, every time, about the cars parking on the street,
It's
the
a
placard
constant
cars.
battle.
There's very little we can do except carry on, which we do.
And the
Go
mayor-
on.
May actually
And
increase
this,
it.
this is about an alcohol license, this isn't about the street traffic.
Well, it's all related.
But this is about an alcohol license. So, going to Sleep No More is $200 a ticket, right? The drinks are $20 a pop, because I've been there. So whoever's going to Sleep No More has an extended budget, right? So that person is not necessarily getting obliterated. I mean, I would love to meet this person that's gonna get wasted on $20 a pop a drink. My friend and I went, we had one drink, okay? Okay, with that said, with the alcohol license, when you guys grant the alcohol license, would that change the amount of people that would be accessing the property? Will that matter, or will it just be the same?
Well, no, if there is the license, this would be a condition
Well,
of the
I'm
license.
saying, if the alcohol license, if the alcohol license gets approved, what is the number of people that will be able to come into the venue? And I support the project, I think it's great for the neighborhood, I think
Well,
it's artistic.
How long have you lived here? Let me just ask
I've
you
lived
that.
here for 3 years.
Good.
3 years. Nothing that goes on. Stone
Okay.
Street is.
No, I just want to know, there are differences in people who have families.
Yeah,
I
this
think
isn't-
it's okay, that's
this isn't-
fine.
This isn't a Stone Street type of thing. Stone Street's already there. That's just, loud. Those people are not
Oh,
nice
we know
loud.
very well,
Of course.
but,
Sleep
you
No More is a little different.
yeah, absolutely. And it's a very different venue. Somebody turned off a light and I'd like to put it on. Thanks, Lucy.
Lucy's
Can you get this lady?
Okay,
I'm from 20 Exchange over here.
That corner.
I'm going to.
That influences
Don't worry.
people all the time, and I think that's where the discussion is, because the infrastructure. You
There's
don't have to
accumulation.
determine how much they're drinking
It's
or
not the
not
place, it's
drinking.
the
Can
traffic.
that corner handle 500 to 1,000 people a day, 365 days a year? That's why
Not the
you've heard
place
some
inside.
discussion about the narrow sidewalks, the narrow street. We don't, right now there is parking. It's very difficult to get rid of because somebody brought up the placard parking and something. So it is what it is now, and with this condition, can this kind of business be supported by that infrastructure, and we don't think so. Or that's what we're hearing, is that many people don't believe so.
To then answer the
Well,
question,
it's about a lot of things.
But
It's
that's
not
what
just
the
about
SLA
alcohol.
takes into consideration.
it's through the alcohol license that all of these agreements would have teeth. They'd be enforceable on the license. Without the license,
There's no business.
Hush.
Is there another hand?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a resident of 20 Exchange, and I have a couple concerns about how this project has been communicated to the residents of my building. So I don't want to be redundant, but yes, we received an invite that they were going to be in the lobby of our building, passing out coffee and answering questions about a small resident cafe. Now, some of the women that I spoke to were actually in this room. I spoke to them 9 times throughout the week, every morning, every afternoon. And I said, what are your plans for safety? Traffic management, the questions that we're hearing here. No, they had nothing there. but they did have a lot to say about this small resident cafe, and did I want to sign up for updates, and all of these things. And only later, when I was doing research on my desk, because I was actually very enthusiastic about this project, did I learn the full scope. And then I came back and I saw their petition, and in a small unbolded line does it say that they are trying to get occupancy for a 3,500 person liquor license. When I questioned them about that, oh well, we're not so sure about that, that's, you know, I won't go into it. But my question is, if this is really so great for the residents of 20 Exchange, why be duplicitous? Why not be upfront? Why offer to bus people here tonight if you already had so many supporters from our building?
The petitions speak for themselves, the part about
You're
the
correct, they
performance.
do, the unbolded part.
No.
You're absolutely right. That was actually obscured from the people getting coffee. It was
The
actually
the
folded
peti-
over so you couldn't even read that part, and it was just lines.
I think
for
the
people's
notice that
names.
you received, that every resident received, is to come by the cafe. I don't know what you were told, I'll assume at face value that you were only told about the cafe. But we have not been concealing this performance venue, and all of the petitions, in big bold letters, say performance venue. I mean, I'm looking at, these are the petitions that they
You
have.
can see about the part about the liquor license though, and I'm not anti-business. I just think that as a resident,
Well,
I should have a right to know that 3,500 people may be coming to my building twice an evening.
Okay, thank you. So I want to do a couple of things. Nope, you get to go last, your people have spoken, and I will let
I
them
like
answer
this guy.
questions. The gentleman behind Alejandra and then the lady in front. Go.
My name is Bobby, I live at 3 Hanover Square. And the question, I'm gonna go back to the Beaver Street with the entrances and the garbage thing you were talking about. Are you saying on the corner of Beaver and William door that you've been redoing the inside lobby part, that's not gonna be used as an entrance or exit?
Correct.
Just the one on Beaver.
The
But
corner
Beaver
of
and-
Beaver and William.
Beaver and William, you have the metal doors open now, and they've been redoing that lobby part. That's not gonna be an entrance or an exit?
Emergency exit.
That would be emergency. I just want to clarify. So only Exchange and William will have everyone going in.
Hanover is for the
And Beaver.
cafe.
And Beaver.
And Beaver.
Beaver at Hanover.
Where on
No,
Beaver?
There is those
Middle of the
big
block.
doors on Exchange and William.
I'm sorry, I don't have a picture, we can't draw it up.
The big doors. There's small doors on William and Beaver. That's going to be emergency only.
That corner, they're telling us is
That's what I was
emergency.
clarifying. Okay. That's right.
We've
Now
heard a
on-
number, sorry.
Go on, Alex.
No, we've heard a number of issues with different doors and entrances. The team has spent too much time thinking about how to get people out, disperse them. Should they use one entrance? Should they use 4 entrances? Should they use 1 exit? Should they use 4 exits? We've been having these discussions for months. And then eventually it was, in order to have every sort of aspect of the ticket checking and no queuing outside, it was determined that logistically it has to be main entrance of mid-block Beaver for the performance. The cafe, I don't think people had a...
Hush, let
And-
him finish.
And then the thought of having people just...
That entrance? The one with garbage?
That's the one. They're gonna be climbing
That's
over
the
those
one.
piles of garbage.
Over the garbage. Where's that?
From the building, that's the garbage from the building, not from them. Hush, 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 hush.
No, these are different doors. I haven't been to those doors yet. I'll go back to the doors that are on William. They're on
He
William.
answered.
He's already
Okay,
He
now-
answered.
Okay, now the doors on Beaver, there are 6 doors, 3 and 3. Okay, they're shared with the residents, correct? Those doors will not be used for, unless it's an emergency, to come out.
No,
that's
no.
egress.
That will be, if I understand,
I'm trying to
That's where
clarify.
they're gonna
hush,
exit.
everybody.
There's a lot of doors going on, so.
Alex,
The proposal is for egress to use all available doors except for the doors that are on the corner of William and Beaver.
Because that's the agreement you made with 15 William.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Yes, that's the deal. You made with 15 William.
If there's other ways to configure this thing, we're happy to discuss
That's the
that.
deal you
okay.
made.
Wait.
The concern I have
We
with
were
the
all
doors.
speaking at the same time.
The doors too, it leads into the trash on the street. I'm very familiar with the street because I take the dogs out on that street, so I see everything. The trash, 3 days a week, that building spends a lot of time neatly stacking it up on a very narrow street, as high as here.
Yeah.
And it sits there for 24 hours because it takes them 24 hours to get the garbage out. on the street. It's a slow process, and it starts on William and Beaver. I watch them with the door. They start there, and they work their way down. So my question is, how are you gonna get your garbage on top of that garbage?
I'm not sure you can answer that.
No, let me
Wait,
ask you something. Are you willing to discuss
Then they're trying to
entrances
exit
and
in a fire, you're
exits?
gonna fall over.
hush, hush, hush.
Are you willing to discuss entrances and exits with any building that will not oppose you, as you did with 15 William? You discussed it with them.
We're
Is that
here-
the deal?
Hold on, we're here the same way we were there at all those other meetings, that we're willing to discuss anything in good faith. But there's sort of a balancing act of if you want all the queuing to be done inside, it has to be coordinated with the rest of the show and the rest of the
But you have
space.
500 people coming to the back of our building, where you have 800 people
Yeah.
living.
They're leaving. Remember, one is leaving, you've got a venue, you gotta remember what they said. Whether people can keep tabs on it is something else. But they're going to have a space. If they have a two-day performance on the weekends, they're going to have it end, and then there's going to be egress. And then there's going to be entrance about an hour later. You can all figure that out. All right, but that's what it's going to be. I'm going to call on you, and then I'm going to say to everybody, listen to me, please. I just want you all, I will call on one more person after you, and then I have to really end it, because it is going to be 7:45. The committee has to have time to talk. And I want to be out of here as close to 8 as I possibly can, all right? That's fair to my members who are all volunteers, all right? So go right ahead.
Thank you so much. I am a resident owner at 3 Hanover. I've been here since 1998. But my question comes from my day job, which is involved in the city's tourism and leisure and entertainment community. And in the beginning of your presentation, you extolled the historic virtues of this venue and its appeal to everyone at every age. 5 bars on 7 floors, even on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon. How are you bringing young people, young children, under 18? I heard a reference to a thing about checking IDs for the 18-year-olds in Chelsea. Concern for me and everyone in our industry is what is safe for the families who go, what is safe for the tourists and the visitors. And I have heard nothing in your presentation tonight that addresses that, which is directly relevant to issuing a liquor license, whether it's 500 people or 3,500 people. There are profound safety issues in creating a venue with a liquor license, whether it's $20 and you don't like Stone Street or you love the production. If this is going to be adults only, there will be a lot more inebriated people, or just 500 people leaving the building in a very short period of time under some state of alcohol consumption for a lot of them. But if you're thinking this is educational, not entertainment, educational, you used the word, I wrote it down in your statement, then how are you going to deal with a liquor license in children? Thank you. You don't have to answer it, I just want to leave that.
Susan,
We
can
don't
I
get it.
help?
Thanks.
No. We're not speaking now, Mitch.
But she has to hear this.
Guys, listen,
Mark, you can
please,
sit down. That's all.
let them answer the questions. Stop interrupting the people that are talking and the
This is
applicant.
the both of our points.
Let the people ask their questions, and that's it, and they'll answer it. Please, we'll have a discussion afterwards, okay? We're never gonna get out of here, and there are a lot of people that wanna talk, and they should be able to have their talk.
Mark is very concerned, so let me be very clear, that anybody who would like to speak should speak who came, all right? And I'm going to say to all of you, if you would just listen, if you're just going to repeat what has been said, please. But if you have something you want to add or something you want to ask, I'm willing to entertain it. I really want you to have, I promised you, so go right ahead.
Thank you. My name is Sarah. I live on Pearl Street, just south of Hanover Square and the intersection of Beaver, so I'm right in the neck of the woods. I've lived here since before 9/11, and I lived through a fire that completely gutted the building with a bar restaurant downstairs, immediately next to my building. So we had to evacuate with our pets, our child, and we were out while all the smoke damage was fixed in our apartment. So fire is a big thing in my head when we're talking about subterranean bars with 6 bars and 756 residential units above. It sounds insane to me to have that many people drinking in subterranean space with over 700 apartments above. I'm not going to belabor the point because it seems so crystal clear. I don't know how anybody could question it. But I do have a couple of questions. As far as the liquor being sold, what, I'm going to ask all three and then I'll sit down. I'd like to know what the point of sale process is going to be. Are people going to be walking around with those little tablets taking drink orders throughout the space? Or is it just at specified bars throughout the space?
That's one.
That's one question. My second question is, I looked at trying to understand the capacity of the 3,500 people. I looked at the C of O for the building, the TC of O, and by comparison, I looked at the TC of O. I think it still is temporary for the McKittrick Hotel. The McKittrick Hotel, which is located in a manufacturing district, has as of right use for large capacity eating, drinking establishments. We do not in our C5 zone. We do not have that as of right. Looking at the NYC DOB BIS, I also just took a look at violations. And I would like to know why there are several outstanding, one including a hazardous fire violation at the McKittrick Hotel, outstanding since 2016, for painting over sprinkler heads, blocking windows, plywood preventing ventilation. I'd like to know why these haven't been addressed, why these violations were created in the first place, and it doesn't speak well, in my opinion, of what's to come.
Thank you. Mark, you want to answer, Alex? Or somebody?
Well, the educational question, I think, is fun. We employ a tremendous amount of artists and students from Pace University, other schools in the neighborhood that help us with all our projects. And when we was referring to education, we were referring to internship programs, paid artist programs. We have a number of those. She asked about education. We didn't get a chance to respond.
Yes, you didn't hear me say anything. Keep going.
Okay.
There are 2 other questions she
In
had.
regards to liquor service, those are in the designated places, whether it be the cafe or one of the other areas. It's literally walking up to a bar, making a transaction to buy a drink. In regards to those violations, it occasionally happens that sprinkler heads get covered with paint.
Wow.
They've all been replaced. That happens normal in construction. It's not something that was not remedied. All those violations you talk about are remedied.
Then why
We're in
haven't you filed
compliance with the
certificates
fire
of
department.
compliance? They're not
New York
filed.
City has codes and laws that you have to comply with to maintain a public assembly.
These are on record.
Yeah,
These are
so
still
we're
on record.
still
Why
open.
haven't you cured them?
Inspections by the fire department
Okay.
on a regular basis.
I should just add one more thing. There's also a violation for filing a false certificate of correction of a violation.
All right.
And that's outstanding.
Okay. I want to focus, I understand your point, all right?
Thank you.
So, anybody else, and please, Janet, go right ahead.
My name is Janet, I live at 3 Hanover Square, and I just want to know where are deliveries going to be made to this building? Because obviously there's going to be a lot of deliveries that also take up our streets.
Right.
So what entrance are the deliveries made? Do you have hours for that?
Well, there's sets, there are props, there are deliveries, there's alcohol, there's all the food, all of that.
Everything about sets and props, they get delivered once,
Where and when?
they're installed, and they're there.
Okay, but one of the things, wait,
I was just answering.
wait, stop. One of the things this community is concerned about is when deliveries happen
Garbage pickup.
and the garbage pickup, which we talked about with them. I don't need to belabor the point, but when do you intend to have deliveries?
There's gonna be an installation process just for the set design.
Yeah, and when
But
does
with
that
this-
happen?
With this proposal, that's a one-time installation, it's not a changing, constantly rotating, it's not like a Cipriani event space where deliveries of chairs and tables and things that are event-specific are coming in now. So the installation process is gonna happen over the course of several months of construction equipment and things getting inside.
So you
to
don't
be built.
change the installation. Once it's done, it's done. All right, what time?
I think some of it's been going on.
Whenever it's convenient for the
The
neighborhood.
laws of New York City dictate construction a little bit, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
we do.
No, not really.
But I'm asking.
Not necessarily.
Just like 7 Hanover.
All right, but wait.
The food and beverage is gonna be an ongoing delivered good.
When?
Trucks and trucks.
We require no earlier than 7 a.m. and on weekends it's
That's
later.
fine. And our-
But I want to say something, and I want us to be all clear here. You can require a special permit for certain deliveries, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct? Like for construction, for Spring Studios and whatever. So that there are real issues of concern about when that happens. This is a residential neighborhood. Whatever anybody else may say.
Yes, whatever you want. I mean,
Whatever you want.
we're
From your lips, yes. And I'll, yeah.
Can I add something to this, Susan, please?
Pardon me?
Can I add something to this conversation,
Ask a
please?
last question, Alejandra.
Well, not a last question, just in part of this conversation when we were talking about the deliveries and how they're a problem currently because they're parking on the sidewalk to make deliveries to all this area. You guys told me, well, that is not us, it's not under our control. If it's under our control, it's not gonna happen. Yet I have a video of people delivering things into your commercial space, not only on the sidewalk, but blocking the street and the sidewalk. So if you say, I have the video, the cops actually looked into it, and they spoke to the building and told them that it is not appropriate to do this. So, you're saying that you're gonna handle things
The police told us that there's problems in the neighborhood with people filling trucks up on the street on a regular basis. And that they're very happy that we're communicating with them.
Your
But most
vendor did
people
it.
don't.
Your vendor did
Okay.
it.
We're not even in.
So what guarantee do we have?
The real question, ultimately, and I will, all right, have your last question and then I'm done.
So hi, everybody. I know I look like, because we're talking about alcohol, I look like I might have had a few, but I
Don't,
was really red.
don't worry about it, even if you did. Go on.
Anyway, so I've lived in New York City for 15 years. I've lived in FIDI for 5. April will be 1 year that I've lived in 20 Exchange. I can assure everybody in this room that I signed a petition on an uncreased piece of paper, fully aware and informed of what I was signing. The second piece is I recall being really excited about the fun red envelope I received on my door, and I know that was around the holidays because Immersive had a presence at our holiday party. There has been continued dialogue with the residents for a lot longer than 5 days. The other, I'm sorry, okay.
She has a chance to speak, please.
Yes. As a resident of FIDE, I can speak to the dependability of subways far more than I can speak to Lyft and Ubers. If the 4 and the 5 and the 2 and the 3 are down, there are an assortment of other train lines that I can take. I've gone to Sleep No More. It is, as many people have described, but what we're not taking into account, someone mentioned 40% of Cipriani attendees take cars. We're not taking into account with that statement the demographics of people that would attend Sleep No More as opposed to a Cipriani style of event. I mentioned that I've lived here for a while, but I think this relationship between education and theater is kind of a non sequitur. It's a really obvious one that doesn't really require us to expound too much on that. The next piece is I'm really grateful for the urban planners and the social change makers, the people that are on this committee, because in the 15 years that I've lived in New York City, FIDI has gone from a place where you would go because other people didn't want to really live there in the early 2000s, and now it is a neighborhood that's a destination, and I'm really grateful.
What, rude?
A lot of us have been here for
Let her finish, please.
And I also don't think it's fair.
She has the
to judge
floor,
someone's
let her
residency
finish,
based on their
please.
age or how long they've lived someplace. But the neighborhood is amazing, and I'm really glad we all live in it and are able to attend something like this. And because of Sleep No More, or because of folks like Immersive, I think it's important to bring things besides restaurants and besides bars only, but theater. And Immersive folks, it is as much of a drinking venue as a Broadway theater is, with arguably better drinking.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. I have to
Here's
stop
somebody
this.
that's new.
I'll give you the last word. How's that?
Really quickly, on the public transportation, my name is Grace Lee, I live at 20 Broad. We know that our public transportation systems down in the financial district are overburdened already, okay? Let's remember, in December, there was a 2-year-old who was pushed off of a platform on an overcrowded subway station, okay? It was at Fulton Street. So you don't think people are going to use that? I take my kids, 2, 4, and 8-year-olds, on the subway and on the 405 on Wall Street every day. Okay, and I have to hold their hands to make sure that they don't get separated from me, and that they're going to be pushed up. Those are very narrow platforms. Think about hundreds of people coming on the subways at very concentrated amounts of time. Okay, so your public transportation argument is not a strong one, and I will leave it at that.
Okay, so I am closing this portion of the meeting. I really want to thank you all for coming. I really, truly appreciate it. All of you, the pros, the cons, it's okay. Thank you very much.
You don't
We're
have to
not
leave.
done. You can stay. The committee is going to do its own deliberation without any interference, hopefully.
Can Don speak to traffic or?
Well, the committee will have questions for you. We'll have questions.
That's an argument against.
I don't think they understand. I mean, they can leave. I don't think they understand it, so we're not kicking them out.
It wasn't explained.
5 minutes, you gotta go.
Make it part of the record.
I want and I don't need you on traffic, you can stay.
Please shout out.
Thank you.
That's the biggest argument against congestion pricing, because the infrastructure can't support more cars.
Guys, you gotta either go
Shout out
or
to the
stay.
Lewis in Albany.
But I'm saying that that's
Excuse me.
about in the meeting.
Besides, who the
Either
hell wants to
going
go
or
to subway
staying.
anyway?
I think I'm saying that's what we should bring up when we have the congestion pricing.
Yeah.
To put that, accentuate that in that thing.
I agree, but
You're
the
welcome
other
to
side
stay, but
doesn't
if you're
care.
leaving, please leave.
They don't care.
I have invited Jeff to sit with us.
It's like Norm. You're our Norm.
Not the mailman.
So, committee.
If you're staying, please have a seat and relax and keep your input to yourself. If you're leaving, have a great evening. Thank you. That's not mine.
I was waiting for Tough Lucy to show up.
Okay.
Here she is. She's as tough as, she's even tougher than I am. All right, so here we are. All right, and we've heard from all sides, whatever. The question is, it's clear, so let's see if I've got it right. The community does not want this venue at all.
Right.
So my question, and it's a question to us, and it may be to whomever, Pat, who has a lot of experience, or Jeff. If they're not granted a liquor license, they can still have special events, if I understand correctly, which we can't control necessarily through any agreement or stipulation. Am I right, Mr. Amoruso?
You mean if they get like a one-off permit?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they can get those permits, but if they continuously apply for them over and over and over again, the SLA will red flag them and say, there's only there's no set amount, but the SLA doesn't look kindly upon a venue who wants a special permit every day of the year. Eventually they're gonna say, listen, you gotta go apply for a liquor license.
Mark and I researched that,
Yeah.
if you remember. It was like, we got two different people at the SLA said the same thing, 15, around 15.
Yeah.
And then they won't.
Then it gets red flag.
Okay, but they could have, I want it all on the table, what is out there. They're 15, and then, I wish the SLA were our friends, but they're not. So, one of the things, Deron, that concerns me, and then you speak, is I often wonder, and it's what Jeff and I experienced when we went to SLA. I want to support the community, which I think is against this on one level. However, if we don't protect ourselves, I worry about that as well in terms of the larger of the community and what's allowed. I think the traffic pattern is abominable, and I think it is horrific, and nobody answered the questions clearly. I want to just go on record. That's a big issue, and emergency. Both of those
I think
things.
coupled together,
I think
exactly.
those two things coupled together are big deals. All right.
I think those are the only deals.
Yeah.
Back of our building.
They're exiting in the back of our building, or they're exiting in the back of somebody else's building. It's the issue of controlling, it's all around. It's controlling the young ones that smoke, it's whatever they do, it's the cars, it's all of that. But it's the traffic pattern in a neighborhood that at one time wasn't a neighborhood, but has residents and children and whatever.
And it's so close together that
Well, that's the biggest
if
problem.
you do have an emergency, they all can go up. Doesn't matter what side you're on.
But-
All those side streets are completely filled.
But, there is always a but.
And there's regular traffic.
Wait, Deron.
No, my question is this one of those instances where if we turn down as is, can they go and get 3,500 people in 4 days?
Potentially.
Or is this the
Potentially.
15
That's-
Mark,
that's
is
the
this the
risk.
15
Yeah.
thing you were just talking about?
Yeah, well.
Yes.
We
How do
can-
we structure
Okay,
it?
so then-
Potentially.
Let's get, we're not to that point yet, let's finish the
We could say it.
the details before we discuss, therefore be resolved, okay?
Okay, but that's the,
stay.
but
Yeah.
that's a potential.
It is, and that's, I think, what
Maybe-
15 William thought
Right.
they need to.
Right.
I don't know
That's
what
what
that
we
piece of
need.
paper is, to be honest, when I look at who signed it, et cetera, but I think that's why 15 William, in my opinion, was intimidated
Right.
into signing it.
But I
In
think
my opinion.
absent any answers about the traffic with regard to the infrastructure, about the emergency vehicle access, and there was a lot of things that were not answered. So I think absent that, we can get this is very, very, potentially, we can get this. I don't think it's just as of right with all of those unanswered questions. I think the fire department could say, no, you don't get this. I think that the SLA could say, yeah, the cabaret license does apply here. You can't use your bathroom as part of the capacity. I just think that there's too many large questions like that. That it's not necessarily
I think
Shot.
I'd also want to point out too, this isn't about trying to prevent somebody from doing business.
Not at all.
And we have to be
I
careful.
love
First
the
of all,
idea of
wait,
the standard.
Liz, let me finish. First of all, we support a lot of business. We have something nobody else in New York has, which is Stone Street. Open till 4 a.m., a line of bars. It causes a lot of problems, but we support them. Most importantly, in this situation, we support 20 Exchange. Those are almost 800 residential units. We deal with their trash. They also, which, I'm not resentful of it, but they are doing business as a residential building, making a lot of money. And there are alternative uses for that basement. They could provide services that they could charge for their residents. They could do the cafe. I think that's something reasonable for the community without this whole other. It's not wanting to support people doing business. We have taken on a lot. Cipriani, Stone Street, everything around us. This just does not, it's an infrastructure issue.
Mhm.
It does not fit in this infrastructure, and I'm sorry. 20 Exchange, come back to us with something that fits. That's how I feel.
Go just
Go on.
over a few things.
Yeah.
You don't allow dancing and, not the performers, the patrons? No dancing? Okay. So let me ask you about, the type of zoning that's there. What is the zoning that allows, these performances?
The use group, and this is the same use group that is used for Sleep No More, is use group 6, eating and drinking, and use group 9, exhibition, both of which are allowed in the C5 zone and under the downtown special district.
So you're just saying it's performance, it's not amusement?
It's a performance. It's an art.
Excuse me, it's use group 12 on your C of O for the McKittrick, not group 6.
That's historical. It used to be 2 nightclubs. So we didn't,
It's from
so we didn't
2015,
change.
Okay,
so it says 12, not 6.
So that's the underlying zoning of the C5?
Right.
Is what you're saying? Okay. All right.
12 was one, what Diana
Yeah.
sent, what Diana sent us earlier in the week, 12 was on there too.
And
She's right.
there's one thing I didn't get clear about deliveries. Now, deliveries of things like components to the set or props, things like that for a performance that's changing, how is that done?
Performance doesn't change. Once it's built, it stays the same.
So you don't need to be additional props in and out or things like that?
Under this proposal, it's one installation, that's the show.
So then that's the show? Okay.
Except that in a year's time, they may need another. We can't
Yeah, we
control
don't know
that,
that,
all
yeah.
right? We don't know that. Let's be
So-
out there and
So I was
understand
just,
that.
I'm just gonna say, initially, believe it or not, I was a little, somewhat open-minded that we could work out, something with stipulations. But I've changed my mind. I don't see that happening. The traffic, the inaccuracy of the traffic plan, to take into account, particularly, for hire cars in such an oversaturated area, for me is the key, component as to why this is not in the public interest, and that's, I think that's how we should, approach it with the SLA. That's my opinion. So I'm of the mind of denying the license. And then the other question that I had about, the woman, someone brought up that they do shots in the other place, and this is a red flag for me. It was like pulling teeth from the applicant representative to find out that, well, what's really happening? Is it shots? Is it this? Then it's sugar water. But just to get it out of him, that kind of avoidance to answer the question makes me concerned that we're not getting the truth about everything.
So,
It's not meant for a response.
all right,
It's my
Pat,
observation.
go on.
Okay, I also feel that, you know, we have businesses, I mean, that need to operate in our community. It is a residential business community. And you know how, I was willing to say yes, I think that with stipulations, they should be given, granted a liquor license. But now I feel no, I feel because of emergency situations, I really am not comfortable with the fact that you didn't take it upon yourself to discuss fire, you know, the problems that might occur with the fire department, emergency, police. I also wonder how you feel about the fact that the community doesn't want you here.
Well, we're not their clientele.
Yeah.
So that,
But the clientele doesn't live here.
well, some do.
Some do.
We heard some do.
We've heard
We heard that they do.
But the majority of the clientele don't
Wait,
live here.
Right, that's what it is,
Well,
they don't
just to
care.
your point, Pat, I think some business owners, I'd like to think as a business owner, you would want to be supported by the community.
Right.
They may choose not to, whether that's wise business.
But they have an interest.
Whether that's wise as a business person, who knows, it's just.
And we do approve like 99% of the liquor licenses with conditions. We rarely reject one.
But you are
All right.
all people in the room. who
But
said-
I'm not
record.
gonna let them answer this minute. I'm gonna let Joel speak for a minute. Go on, Joel.
So, the community has really taken a stand, and it's saying no stipulations. And that's what they're looking for, because they could have come here tonight and say, you know what, we'll live with it, but we want to have some restrictions. But they took a stand, and the community feels very, very strongly about it. not having this in our backyard.
Not
And
everyone got to speak though, to be honest.
But
Well, we heard from some pros, and
We heard from you.
No, not you, there were a
We
couple
heard from
of
her.
others. We heard, we understood,
but,
But we heard from you.
we heard, and you're on tape, don't
So-
worry.
No, we finished with everyone else, and no one else raised their hand, just for the
So-
record.
but let me finish. So anyway, I think the community has taken a stand at this point, just saying no. Just outright no, with not stipulations. Not at this time, not at that space, not with all the problems it's gonna bring. And I did send the traffic study, when I got it, to the downtown commissioner of the DOT, and he wouldn't officially comment on it, but he didn't think it was maybe in the right
Go on,
place.
Megan.
Something I also would like to be made part of the record, if we don't already have it, was they distributed, when they were meeting with residential buildings, several scenarios, one being listed as the worst-case scenario. I think, I think it was, from their perspective, it's the reality. We will invite 3,500 people here at this, so gamble as you may. I think I feel it's intimidation that led to this 15 William thing. I don't like that kind of negotiation. If I don't get A, here's your worst case scenario.
Megan,
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
care.
I have to jump in here. The community board asked us to produce that document.
Okay.
And I don't
Lucy
know.
asked us. to
Okay,
produce
all
that.
right, fair enough,
Okay,
fair enough.
I won't debate you then.
No, we're not gonna debate. Before I have more debate, because I'd
I'm not
like
gonna
to bring
debate at
this
all.
to a close. I think that everybody who is still here has to understand something, all right? This goes to the further community board at our community board meeting the end of February, and they have to vote on it. However, if this committee chooses, and I have no idea yet, to reject this application, everybody who can has to go to the SLA. This is not a one-shot, because the SLA is very clear about how it views these things. Pro, con, whatever, you have to go there. We are just advisory. We try to listen to the majority of our members and to respond accordingly. Some people on our board don't agree and think we should just do X. Everybody here has tried to listen very carefully and to listen to your presentation. It was not adequate. I want to just say that. It was not adequate, all right? And that's why we're in the position that I don't like to be in. So I am going to take a vote right now without asking any more questions, all right?
Can I ask you,
All right, Mitch.
I want to ask you and Jeff a question, because that'll affect my vote.
Okay.
I agree that it's a great venue, not in the proper location. But I would like to ask, I'll wait till you finish. You and Jeff, that if the same amount of people that were here tonight go to the SLA, or they say we turn it down, just, do you have a feeling if there's a better than 50% chance that they would still grant it? And that'll affect my vote, because it's like gambling all or nothing, which I'm always afraid of.
Right. I think that I'm going to answer this, and then Jeff will answer. I think this is a gamble.
Right.
Where do we want to take it? Do we want to gamble? They have this supposed agreement, and I'm going to let them have a last word.
Okay.
I'm not going to ignore them. But this is a gamble. I want us all to understand that. I think some would raise their, would say, well, they made an agreement with 15,
Right.
and maybe that is binding. I don't know.
Jeff,
all
how do
right?
you feel about that?
But for the majority of people, Mitch, I have no way of knowing what the SLA will do, and I don't think Jeff does either. We've been there. We've done that. Sometimes we come out like bandits, and more often than not, we don't.
Because I agree with
in
most
all
of what you
fairness,
guys say,
correct?
but I'm just afraid of the all or nothing.
I don't even feel comfortable saying they've made an agreement with 15. I pushed this thing away because this, I mean, they themselves said, right, it's not necessarily for, it's just not against, and then there's nobody's name on this. Any nonprofit organization has to have a board of directors, it has to have a chair. That person's name should be on here. This is garbage.
Okay.
Can I
Yes,
just say
you
something?
may.
It's like, at what point is common sense going to prevail? I love
I'd love
the
to know
idea
that.
of a theater experience in our neighborhood.
You would,
I
yes.
love theater.
We have
I
PAC.
love the idea of drinking and partying and having fun.
The PAC is coming
The
down.
reality is that even at the limit with the stipulations, it still doesn't make sense from a public safety concern viewpoint. We have not
just
had
safety,
our
quality
concerns
of life.
addressed. The traffic study does not address the fact that we're already over capacity, right, Mariama? So there is no point at which we can negotiate
Right.
what would work. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work in this infrastructure right now at this point in time, unless we figure out how to hovercraft in emergency vehicles if there's a problem. It's a cluster, F-U-C-K.
It absolutely
down there
is.
Whenever there's any event already. So I don't care if
Fubar.
it's 2 people, 50 people, there's nothing to negotiate. It's a public safety
All right,
concern that
okay.
needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're stopped. You can have the last word, Alex. You want to say anything?
I'll give Don my time. I will just point out, there were some people here in support. There's also 400 plus signatures in support. Many of those are from people within the immediate area. This is not just, I'm sorry?
I said you still have to balance public safety.
Let's let him finish,
Let him
please.
finish.
Let him
Go ahead.
finish.
All right, sorry.
I'll let Don address the traffic stuff. Yes, there's you go to the SLA alternative, and then there's the just no license alternative.
Yes. There are all those things. But I think we're going to take a vote right now. So,
Wait, Don wanted to.
Hold on.
yes.
I think Mitch needs to know that.
I think, Mitch, understand something, and I want everybody here to understand it.
Sure.
And I'll drag Jeff along, but if we vote negative on this resolution and the board approves it,
That's
we all, including Mark, have to go to the SLA. This is a commitment we're all making, all right? I want you to all understand
Not
that.
us, the community.
The community and a number of us,
Let me-
the chairs,
Let me
all
explain
right?
something
Right.
real quick. Just let me explain something real quick. Even if we did this like we usually do, pass with stipulations, we approve unless that.
Right.
There is no possible stipulation or enforcement mechanism to deal with the traffic problem.
Thank you.
Even if we get the hours we want, even if we get the people we want. And they say they're gonna hire a traffic manager and all that other stuff, there is no enforcement mechanism that would fit into a stipulation in an SLA license that we can actually enforce that and get it, they wouldn't have to do it if they didn't want to.
I
So-
don't want to turn my time
so-
to Don.
It's like, it doesn't fit at 4 PM.
no.
They could shut down at 4
Right,
PM. It
right.
There's
does
so many
not
comments
fit.
trying to.
Okay, I will allow it, and then that's it, and I'm going to vote. All right,
2
go.
minutes. There's a lot of things we're on the same page with. The congestion, the narrow sidewalks, and there's things that we agree that the key component to the success of this application is leveraging public transit to get to this event. There's 9 subway lines within a 5-minute walk of the event space. Implementing this plan that we identified, and please, you read it already, please take another look at it, would be from our perspective, and I understand your opinion, Mark and Joe, and this just isn't my opinion, this is the collective opinion of our firm that has been doing exactly these kind of studies for 25 years and doing it very successfully for events much larger than this. Barclays Center, the US Open, MetLife Stadium, other events, the people visit. Nobody's better getting people out of cars on the transit than
I
us.
understand,
And
but
we can implement a successful program
Yeah.
from a traffic perspective.
I don't doubt that.
And
But
let's-
this is before I take this vote, I just want to, in terms of
Barclay's a
the
mess.
community, and traffic is a mess, and it is a terrible venue at this time because we're not widening the streets unless we blow up 15 William.
Right.
I mean, really. So I understand that. That is the problem. And I don't. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. I'm 75. It ain't going to happen in my lifetime. So anyway, so let's just I'm going to take a vote now. I've got to, all right? I've got to end this. I've had enough.
So it's based on the comments and the zoning and the traffic study and the quality of life and
Safety.
the safety and the residents, the overwhelming number of residents that we hear in opposition and everything that we've heard. Add anything? Did I miss anything? I have a lot of notes.
I just
She has
think
a
it's
lot-
important
Jen
that-
has a lot of notes.
that we were encouraged to turn this into a residential neighborhood
Yeah.
through subsidies that were offered, et cetera.
Yeah.
We were
Yes.
encouraged for it to
Yes.
become what it is now that makes this so offensive,
After
this
9/11,
application.
that's correct.
So,
It seems to be forgotten.
yeah, and they're forgetting that if they approve this.
All right.
It's a betrayal.
So all in favor of this resolution, which is to not approve,
It's a rejection of the application.
to reject the application, all in favor?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, well, put your hand down. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, okay.
It's in favor of rejecting the application.
And,
Quorum?
yes.
Yeah.
And Mitch abstains. Okay? Thank you all for coming.
Wait, opposed?
Opposed, there's nobody. Thank you.
Abstention is almost like.
And thank my staff, thank this staff.
Right, so it's not an opposed, all the resolution against it. Right?
I did 400 people.
You've got more than two now.
Yeah, could be a lot of.
I had Mark. I had the big gun.
Mark was great.